Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Where the Children Play titled Conversations with a Casket. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen, the album art or the single art on YouTube. This is off of the album titled The House that Death Built, and we're going to listen through it from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. I like how the guitar surrounds you. And the strings in the distance because of the filtering. Reverb tails. That's what I mean, like these guys are professionals. Like it sounds really tight. That contrast between the guitars and the strings in the background almost sort of very kind of wispy. I was thinking of wistful and wispy at the same time and came up with a wistful. I think that contrast then with the guitar, bass and drums, just how heavily they come in, especially with the alternate chugged bits and the double kicks is fascinating.
Your head swirling, filled with thoughts of mess and hate, entranced by the demon in the mirror, to take your blood apart.
It just sounds so demonic there with the low growls there. It sounds like a cautionary tale, and the chugging, the ominous kind of dangerous nature of the guitarist with the halftime drum beats is just it's a great collection.
Forgotten by those I love, living the way I once flew, burning into this blackness. You'll see you from below. I can't feel my tears running down.
The choirs are kind of mysterious and dissonant at the same time.
I remember the hate you exude. One bottle at a time, reaching closer to your doom. The foul stench of fire on your breath, and eyes that sink for miles. Your generation.
What are those little flutter things? What are they? They're an interesting texture. See, at this point in the track, you're kind of wondering, what else are we going to pull out of the woodwork to keep it longer, keep it going longer for that 5 minutes 41? Sensational. It's ferociously heavy. The guitar riffs there with the drum side chained and just kicking in. It's visceral. To go down with either guitars or keys here. And we fade out. We've got lyrics, and then we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. So we've got all alone, I lay my head at night, wondering endlessly what happened that day. Why? Okay, to take your final breath, I suppose it's about suicide, isn't it? Why was your head swirling, filled with thoughts of malice and hate, entranced by the demon in the mirror to take your final breath? Pull the trigger, I'll wither away, forgotten by those I love, leaving the ones I once flew under, falling into this black sky. Black earth, I'll see you from below. Oh, right, so we're going to hell, right? That's the kind of iteration there, or the assumption. So the skin is a hollow shell, standing above your ashes, I remember the hate you exhume. Oh, okay, so is it about generational sort of like mental health issues and alcoholism and stuff like that? Wanderer of hell's plains, watching me from below, living out your perfect life, crawl your way, only to fall again. Oh, I can't feel the hurt you put me through, for I have nothing left to shadow. I can't see the beacon of light pointing aimlessly away from this hell. Alright, I think I've kind of got this track. We're going to talk about that more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Where the Children Play, titled Conversations with a Casket. I think this is about a conversation with a dead parent. Wondering why they may have killed themselves. They're talking about their issues like alcoholism and stuff like that. The pain that they put them through, that was put through by the parent, the intergenerational thing. Maybe they got abused by their parents, or maybe like they had some mental health issues as an intergenerational thing. But just to see someone deteriorate before your very eyes, to be affected by it, whether they hurt you or not, either way, it's incredibly painful. And it's just a situation where you really can't help but feel for the singer as they tell their story there, even though it's a very kind of creepy, intense, almost antagonistic style of telling a story. It almost represents the pain or the feelings that they're suffering through as they describe it. I think that the tale is visceral. I like the wordplay there. I think that is very vivid, Lines like, Wanderer of hell's plains, watching me from below, living out your perfect light, crawl your way out only to fall again. It sort of insinuates that even if this person was to find a way to redeem themselves, they sort of just fuck it up again. And it's a bit sad, really. You feel for this person, but at the same time, you understand that there have been some consequences to those person's actions, and you're just trying to sort of figure out, maybe this is in post, maybe this is after the person's died, and you're just trying to figure out what connection you have with them at all. I think anyone who's had like issues with a parent, myself personally, I think we can potentially relate to this conversation with like a person, someone that's passed away, trying to understand why they did the things they did, why did they have that demon in the mirror, etc. I think that is really intriguing subject matter, and I am thankful to the musicians involved for showing that sort of vulnerability and opening themselves up more, because it can be such a shame when we don't really know the person we're listening to. It's a very sort of easy opportunity to have if it's done in a way which is also beneficial for the listener. And I think in this situation, the music sounded great. It sounded very sort of like within the genre. It was very well done. And I think that the story, again, it suited the vibe of the track, whilst also giving us a bit more of an insight into who they are as people. The vocals were tight. I appreciated the technique, the growls and shrieks and stuff like that. We didn't really have anything else. I mean, there were some sort of like choir bits, but I'm not sure if they were like quite like a choir voice, or if they were sort of like synthy sounding kind of choir vocals there. I think that all we needed is that main sort of lead there to kind of carry us through. There are other instruments that took over occasionally, such as some of the guitar bits, but aside from that, it was simply a situation where the vocals were the focal point for most of this 5 minutes 41. There are several verses and chorus sections there to kind of, it was also potentially sort of through composed, if I'm honest. There we had variations between some of those hookish, pseudo hookish lines and such. It was enough to sort of be something that is easy to listen to, especially if you're familiar with the genre. For people who are not as familiar, this could be a little bit like affronting, especially with the vocal style and stuff like that. But I think what's really dope about it is we have a vocalist here who explicitly emotes that pain and suffering that they might be going throughout that situation there. It's very authentic and visceral because of that. They also have solid technique whilst they do that stuff, which is not an easy thing to achieve. Well done to them for taking care of their vocal cords and their body in order to be able to do this for a long time to come. But yeah, we soothed the mood really elegantly. It never, like we slightly adjusted our range going from highs to lower kind of growly bits depending on the parts there, which kept a sense of variation. And I feel like we could have potentially had more melody with some of the vocal bits, but I think that would maybe not have sounded as cold. A lot of like kind of stuff like black metal and death metal and such, it kind of sounds a bit sort of cold, and part of that is the lack of melody. A lot of the growly vocals there. It's very, again, it's caustic, but it sounds dope. Track of 541 is incredibly well fleshed out there. We have guitars and strings and bass and drums and a few other instruments. I think that for the most part, they all fulfill their roles incredibly well. I'll talk about them individually in a moment, but we have a track where we have several different sections. It's lots of variety within the actual composition itself. I'm thinking that the different ideas and concepts relate sort of emotively more closely, potentially with the stuff that we're discussing in the verses. Although I think a lot of it is just trying to sort of find a way to cope with the mediocrity potentially of this person and the fact that you might not never get the answers. And the frustration with that is communicated a lot of the time with the ferocity of the distorted guitarist, as well as the frenetic sort of nature of the drum parts and everything like that. The transitions were typically seamless there. There were gaps and little changes in dynamic range there. Things were not the same loudness all the time from a compositional performative perspective. With a solid instrumental performance without a note out of place, if I talk about those instruments specifically. You had guitars with several lead lines and power chords, and we had sort of picked up arpeggiated bits there as well. We had variety with the different guitar riffs, and I think that the reason that is effective is that in a 5.5 minute track, if that guitarist can do so many things, so it's great to explore what they're capable of to an extent where it is to the betterment of the music, just not arbitrarily. But I think a lack, if I'm not mistaken, of a lead solo section on the guitar is totally okay in this situation, because we had a variety of different other instruments involved, and the vocals again were a compelling focal point there. We didn't need to necessarily switch things up. If we took away the vocals, it was usually if we wanted to sort of have the more ambient sounding guitars with the reverb and strymon and stuff like that come in, as opposed to having like a dedicated solo section. We're very elegant with our phrasing rhythmically, and the tremolo sort of like lead bits there were dope as well. I think that the bass guitar, I didn't really hear much of the bass, to be honest. It was very subtle in the mix there. There wasn't a whole load of bass there, which I think was smart. We're not trying to necessarily turn this into a dance track, although there are some parts where things get a bit more oomph into it, some chuggy bits there where it kind of either goes like slows down a bit and you can really feel the pull of those root notes in the low end kind of stumbling you over. It's well handled. I think we didn't need to be too explorative with the bass. The drums are incredible there. There's such a wide variety of different kick patterns, as well as the staples of like the hi-hats, the snares, and the toms, etc. I think a lot of the joy I got from this was just in that like intro bit after we had the ambience of the strings and guitars, just the crunchy heaviness there, the double kicks there with the alt palm muted rhythm parts on the guitar there. It was ferocious, and it was a really great indicator of what was going to come. We had an interesting sort of more approachable sort of starting motif, but then boom, we had sort of 16th triplets or something like that, and it just smashed its way through the headphones, and it was great. It also helps that we were very adept at playing the kit. The various sort of like phrasings and patterns and stuff were quite difficult and quite tricky, but we managed to smash it. I think that we performed that quite well. I'm not sure if they were I'm not sure how they recorded them, but either way, it was really great. I think that the strings that we had in the intro section, as well as in other parts, there were just a nice mid to high range foil there, indicating a sense of sadness or regret just by virtue of existing within the track, but also not overcomplicating the harmonies or anything like that, and trying to simply be more of a way to sort of make things a bit more colorful. There were also some other interesting sort of sounds and tones I heard within the track there, but I couldn't really place where they were. They might have been triggered percussion or something like that, but either way, I think it was well handled, and I don't think it was in that place. The theme itself for the track, I venture that it's having a difficult time. You can kind of hear with some of the really powerful, heavy, natured rhythm riffs as well, with the drums kind of thumping along with that. Other times it's a bit faster, but like not too much. It's not like we're writing a thrash metal track here. It's quick enough to display a sense of urgency, trying to find what we're looking for, the answer we're looking for here. But when it goes halftime and you really sort of linger on those kicks and snare patterns and stuff like that, it's compelling. It's also nice to not have much of that low end at all for things to float. As I mentioned about like the perceived like dynamic range and stuff like that within the composition, but with a combination of not just the majors and minors, but also some chromatics, I think maybe some tritonal stuff occasionally, as well as with the choir parts that we had in the vocals there and some of the chorus parts there, they were almost quite dissonant. We chose unusual intervals, and I'm not really sure if I necessarily agree with them from like a personal perspective. They seemed a little bit sort of too harsh to me. They weirdly looped into each other, which I think is a masterstroke if that was the intention, to illustrate a bit of fusion within it. Like, that's great. That's very vivid musically, so I commend them for that. But I just, apart from that, we were comfortable going outside the box in regards to note choices and such like that, whilst also, again, committing to staples of the genre, such as like the breakdowns and ferocious sort of like double kicks and the chug riffs and stuff like that. I think it was good. So ultimately, I think it connected well with the lyrics there, the feelings of confusion, sadness, maybe regret, disappointment, effectively, maybe also acceptance near the end, though I don't really feel like we get a massive sense of acceptance from this track. Like musically, at any point, it doesn't necessarily resolve in a way which would indicate that. I think that the studio recording, mixing, and mastering is really tight. Like, they're at a point now where this is ready for release. The vocals, different vocal takes plus the choir, the guitar, bass, drums, and strings are all well handled on the frequency spectrum as well as the stereo field there. The music surrounds you in the headphones, and there's no, like, everything's niched quite well. I love the tone of the guitars. They sound incredible. I would like to know how they recorded the guitars. I'm really, really proud of them for that. It just sounds so full of life and vigor. It's not squeezed. There's dynamic range, but it's also nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting is handled. And effectively, that is my review of this track from an act named Where the Children Play, titled Conversations with a Casket, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they have more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.